I would like to talk about photographing whales. This is a picture of a cow and a calf humpback shot on film. It's one of the last. It was the lead picture in the 1999 National Geographic story, Listening to Humpback Whales. The same image has morphed into being the logo picture for Whale Trust starting in 2001, and Humpback Chronicles started this year. Hi, I'm Flip Nicklin. Welcome to Humpback Chronicles. The first whale picture I shot that became popular was of my father with a humpback whale as we were shooting the IMAX film Nomads of the Deep in 1979 off of Lahaina. At that point I knew very little about whales, and the ones that we photographed were just whales that seemed interested in us, whales we called friendlies. And then, on March 10th, 1979, we were called over by Dr. Jim Darling to photograph Frank, the first singing whale we could photograph when it was down 50 feet below the surface in a singing position, and that's the subject of Humpback Chronicles number 1. This was a big transition picture for me, moving me from not just shooting as a journalist, but shooting to document science. At that point I was shooting Kodachrome, and we could take the film, and if we got it in by 3 o'clock to a photo shop across from a Space Invader parlor in downtown Lahaina, we'd get it back at 8 o'clock the next morning, and I'd be there with the scientific crew standing on the street in downtown Lahaina holding up 35mm slides, seeing to see if we got anything or not. It was really exciting. It could also be a little depressing. The film exposure was so critical on Kodachrome that we would bracket our exposure, so even if you did everything right, only about a third of the pictures came out properly exposed. This was especially challenging underwater because it was hard to change settings on a free dive. So you'd make a dive and shoot a few exposures and come up and change your settings, dive again and shoot again. So one dive out of 3 would really work out well. And sometimes the best shots or the best behavior wasn't on that dive when the settings were right. I really hope you can imagine the excitement of finding out that in 1982, National Geographic was going to do a whole story on the humpbacks in Maui, a new light on singing humpback whales. We came back to Maui in the mid-90s. I was still shooting film, but the cameras were much better. We had autofocus and auto exposure and automatic bracketing, so your percentage of pictures that worked out was much better. And there were a lot more whales, so it was really exciting in 1997 when we were called over by other researchers who had seen Frank, the same first singing whale we shot in 1979. He was singing in the same general area and about the same time of year as when we'd first seen him in 1979. At this point we knew that singers were males, and one of the things we were doing was hanging around singers, trying to see what they were doing, who they were joining, or who was joining them. And the star of 1998 was a whale we just called the Friendly Singer. This was a great whale. The whale would go down and sing for 20 minutes or so, then come up and hang around the boat, look at the hydrophone, rub at the hydrophone. At one point had it under his pectoral, trying to drag the whole recording gear and Jim into the water. Then he'd go down to sing again for another 20 minutes and then come back and hang around under the boat. One of the great things about this whale was that he would go down and sing for those 20 minutes in the days of film when you only had 36 exposures. So when he'd go down, I could get in the boat, change film, and sometimes even change lenses. And you get a whole different look when you switch off those ultra-wide lenses that we usually use underwater for shooting whales. But the best part of the Friendly Singer was that he was still hanging around the boat when he was joined by another whale. And this was another male. And what we've learned since then is singers are joined by other males and not by females, as often thought. But giant changes were coming to photography at the turn of the century, with digital photography, making remote photography easier, and giving a whole bunch of new tools for trying to capture images and tell the science story about whales. By 2001, We were getting used to digital photography in the form of consumer video and shooting underwater and just getting to know what it was like to have instant access to the photographs you were taking. And by 2004, there were still cameras in underwater housings that were acceptable at National Geographic. They shot six megapixels, and you only had 4 pictures in the buffer. You could only shoot 4 pictures before you had to wait for things to load, but they were instant. Things were changing very quickly in underwater photography. I had a different system each year for the first 3 years I was shooting digital, but each one was better than the last. And now I was shooting still photography, and with Jason shooting video, and with the cameras getting better and better, photography became a more important tool to tell the story of whales and whale research with Whale Trust. I was a serious photographer and photojournalist for National Geographic for more than 20 years, for more than 30 years. But digital photography made photography a lot more fun and was much more exciting being able to tell the story and shoot the story of whales and whale research and being able to share it with the people you were working with when it was fresh, when it would happen that day. And as the science of whales became better and better equipped, so did digital photography. That first camera was 6 megapixels. My most recent camera is over 45 megapixels. That first camera, you could only shoot 4 pictures before you had to stop and let things download. Now it's more than 50. And things appear to be just getting better and better. And what we can do and how we can tell the story gets better and better all the time. One of the themes as we get more into the whale season is going to be the importance of the community for support and help and ideas on what we're going to do. And last year, through our new board member, Dr. Norm Eston, we met Russell Brown, a creative director from Adobe Systems. And he came with a bunch of new ideas and new ways to look at whales and new toys to play with. Russell Brown comes with endless enthusiasm and run the gamut from how to take better ID pictures and make the most of what you've got to re-envisioning the world we live in as whale researchers and whale watchers and just people who love whales. So whale season is almost here, and our next plan photographically is to shoot super high resolution pictures of whales to see them with the clarity we've never had before. Who knows? It might work. Thank you. And once again, thank you for your support. Bye-bye.